theater is out of their reach. They can be in the Pacific Ocean one day, and they could come to the Indian Ocean region next day, and third day they could be in the Atlantic Ocean.
Commodore Vasan, nice to meet you after a long time. I think after 2-3 years having you on our show. Commodore, I have connected with you after a critical and a significant development in the Indian Ocean. So you are aware of that Iranian naval ship has been attacked in the coast of Sri Lanka. How significant is this incident?
Thank you, Arun. I am also likewise very happy to reconnect. And it's been some time since we spoke to each other. And I'm happy that we are talking about a very important incident that's happened next door, virtually next door to Sri Lanka, and within the entire sphere of Indian Ocean region, which is of importance to Sri Lanka, India, and all our maritime neighbors. It's unfortunate that it has happened. However, there are two sides of a coin. This ship was returning from IFR. That means it's participated in the Milan exercise of Visakhapatnam and was on its way back. So it's quite a distance in the Arabian Sea, though nobody can say what is the theater of operation. Unfortunately, no war has been declared by either side. While hostilities are going on, they are attacking each other. Officially, they have not said we are not at war. So they are talking about degrading systems, reaching out, punishing the adversary. But however, they have not said the war is on. So therefore, there is a complicated situation here of a warship that was returning after a friendly visit, returning to Iran, being struck off Sri Lanka in the exclusive economic zone of Sri Lanka. So this raises questions on many issues. It can also be, of course, by the Americans. They will say, yes, it was our duty to ensure there was no threat anywhere, because they would have seen it as a warship loose in the Indian Ocean region, Arabian Sea, could pose a threat to their ships, merchant ships, or warships. So from that point of view, they have said, instead of waiting for the threat to emerge, let's neutralize the threat. So I think that is where we are. But I think full marks should be given to the Sri Lankan Navy and the state for rescuing the people there and rushing to their aid. And I think as the spokesperson brought out clearly in the press briefing, he said it was our duty, and we immediately rushed there because it was within the search and rescue region of Sri Lanka. So we've recovered those dead bodies, 82 or whatever. We also saved some of them. And now the recent development is that they have also allowed another Iranian warship to enter and seek shelter. So I think good developments here, and there are bad developments, but that's what war always unfolds, whether declared or undeclared.
Commodore Vasan, this has been described as the first naval ship sunk after World War II. How unusual is this incident?
No, I think this is not technically correct, in the sense this is not the first case of sinking of a submarine after World War. We've had 3 or 4 cases, including one from India, which was sunk during 71 war. But if they are talking about no ship having been sunk by an American submarine, then it is the first. Otherwise, there have been 4 other incidents. There's a Belgrano incident during the Falklands. There was the Kukri incident in Indian subcontinent in 71 war. There's one more incident in Korea. So technically, it is not the first incident after the World War. However, if the spokesperson who was briefing said that this is the first one that happened from US side after World War, then that is correct. What it signifies is that submarines have today a greater reach than what they had in World War. Today there are nuclear submarines. They can remain submerged for months, and they can, virtually move at the same speed as a surface combatant. And therefore, there is no limit in terms of where all they can reach and what targets they choose. This particular ship that went down, just like INS Kukri, which went down in 1971, hardly had any time to sort of respond because all these attacks by torpedoes are so severe that the hull breaks up into two and very few people can escape. Even in our own case in India in 71, only a few of them survived and the rest of them went down with the ship. So what it signifies is that the ability of submerged submarine, whether it's nuclear or conventional, today is phenomenal, and they can change the course of a war irrespective of the theater in which they are operating.
Commodore wasn't that as you said initially during your first response, this ship actually returning after participating in an Indian naval exercise. So, Milan, I think Milan 2026, the timing and the location of the incident, the attack, raises significant geopolitical um, problem, isn't it?
No, you are right to a certain extent in the sense that here was a friendly ship, was on the invitation of the Indian government who participated in the IFR, and then they were returning. However, the ship, as per all the records that are available, did not seek any escort, nor did it seek protection from the Indian Navy, which would have been readily given in the sense that it could have been asked to delay his departure and have him in one of the ports, either on the east coast or the west coast. So obviously, no such request was made. It's also possible that the ship was asked to return to the Persian Gulf because of the ongoing hostilities, and so he was trying to go back. So, but I think the second ship, which has now been given refuge in Sri Lanka, has perhaps done the right thing because it's a neutral territory, and if Sri Lanka has given sanctuary to this warship, then it's highly unlikely that America will carry out an attack. But the same thing could have happened if Iranian Navy had requested India to provide other escort or take it in one of the harbors till they were clear that the coast is clear. So it could have gone along the entire within the territorial waters of India, in which case attacking such a ship would have been even more difficult. And therefore, the reasons why it chose to be in international waters or high seas is something which we do not know. Maybe the survivors will throw some light as to what prompted them to start moving in areas which are unprotected, which was giving a free hand to the American forces. And the geopolitical message that's conveyed is that it does not matter where you are, we will reach you and will neutralize you in the long-term interest of our objectives. So this is what is the message that was conveyed in terms of uh, hitting it, so close to Sri Lanka. They did not engage this in the territorial waters of either Sri Lanka or India. There is a report that he was to get into Cochin for turnaround. If he had got into Cochin, perhaps he would have been safer. But these are things that perhaps were beyond our control.
Actually, my next question was about, what is the message that intended to be sent by the Washington? You actually answered that question. So now I am moving to my next question. So, what does the use of submarine torpedo strike indicate about the nature of the operation?
No, no, as I already mentioned, the submarine is a very potent lethal weapon. Whether it is conventional or nuclear powered, it does not matter. Because the conventional will only have limitations of its underwater prowling, whereas the nuclear submarine has no such limitation. And it also is equipped with, whether it is an SSN or an SSBN that is deployed, determines whether it also has the ballistic missile capability or whether it is just a submarine that has nuclear propulsion but has conventional weapons. So in this case, that the fact that the torpedo was used is obviously no missiles were required because the ship that we are talking about, IRS Dena, was virtually defenseless. It had no anti-submarine capability worth its name, and therefore submarines will continue to be a very potent, lethal weapon system that any navy can possess. And as you are aware, even Indian Navy has nuclear submarines. So stealth, the ability to remain undetected, and to unleash its attack, whether it is ballistic missiles or whether it's torpedoes or even conventional land slams, what we call SLAG, sea launched, land attack missiles. The potential is phenomenal, and it provides secrecy, it provides efficiency, and it provides a reach, particularly in the case of nuclear submarines, because, like I said, they can almost travel at about 24 to 30 knots every hour. So that means no theater is out of their reach. They can be in the Pacific region, Ocean one day, and they could come to the Indian Ocean region next day, and third day they could be in the Atlantic Ocean. That's the kind of reach that it has, and coupled with stealth, it's a phenomenal weapon system that any navy would like to possess.
Commodore Watson, the Iran said claims this attack is an unprovoked attack, while the US said this is a part of the strategy to degrade the Iranian naval capability. In the Among the military planners' evaluation, how do you see this kind of action?
No, we all have been closely monitoring the developments there. What's clear is this is one objective, which is to degrade Iran's capability to wage a war or even to counter whatever is happening in the theater. So therefore, they have already sunk about 18 to 20 naval ships in different parts of the Persian Gulf. And so this is the first one which is being sunk outside the immediate theater where what is going on in the Middle East. So they are very clear that anything that's likely to pose a threat, whether it's by the air or by land in terms of ballistic missile launching capability, drone launching capability, or a ship that can fire at them, or even threaten some of the ships that are passing through the Straits of Hormuz, they are quite clear that we would like to eliminate them. So, like I said earlier, in response to your first question, there is no official declaration of war as such. Even the Congress in USA has not really said it's war, and so therefore there are questions on the legitimacy of the action that's being done. But point is, unfortunately, it is might that is right in all these cases, and that's what we are witnessing today. Because I know the American Navy, the American system is equipped and it caters to war in different theaters. The fact that they possess 12 carrier battle groups, and which can be simultaneously deployed, and the fact that there are so many bases within Middle East, Bahrain, Kuwait, Duqm, and all these places, tells you that Iran, or for that matter any other regional power, would not be a match to the US Navy and its power. So this was demonstration to say that whoever we consider as a future potential threat, we will ensure that it gets eliminated. So the message is quite clear. We can't hide from us. If we decide that we will take you on, we will take you on. No, legal or otherwise, is something that can be debated till cows come home, but that's not going to change the equation today, which is that they have this power, the reach, capability, matched with intentions that can take out any threat anywhere, depending on their objectives. In this case, which is to degrade the entire fighting capability of Iran in all dimensions.
Um, Commodore Watson, now under the international maritime law, is this kind of action permitted or is this illegal?
Very interesting question, because it brings in many, many dimensions of the United Nations Convention on Laws of the Seas, use of the high seas, the applicability of the territorial waters and the continental waters or contiguous zones. And so in this case, the UNCLOS, first of all, we must understand that though United States is also a signatory to the UNCLOS, it is not ratified. That means while it tries to selectively use the provisions of UNCLOS to its advantage, when it is not convenient, it will ignore it. So in this particular case, each state is authorized to have a complete control of the exclusive economic zone. Like in the Indian case, it's the Maritime Zones of India Act of 1976, which says up to 200 nautical miles I have the full authority. This is according to the international statute where I can harness the resources. However, when India issued this MZI Act, it also said that any foreign ship that transits through our exclusive economic zone should make their intentions clear to us. But about 4 years ago, there's an American destroyer which went through about 130 nautical miles off Lakshadweep Minicoy without informing India, and India protested. But United States Navy, which is not ratified the UNCLOS, said these are excessive claims and not in consonance with the provisions of UNCLOS related to use of high seas, because anything beyond the 12 nautical miles will come under the provision of high seas, and therefore in high seas it feels that there is no jurisdiction as far as whether Sri Lanka or whether India is concerned, and therefore they are free to engage. Morally, it was perhaps not right to attack a defense, particularly so far away from the theater of operations, but there is no morality when it comes to war.
Very well pointed out. Um, Sri Lanka suddenly is in the middle of a geopolitical crisis. How, from your point of view, how difficult is to be in this position for Sri Lanka?
I must first compliment the decision makers, the leadership, the navy, and all those people from Sri Lanka for doing such a great job and also providing sanctuary to a ship from a war-torn area. So this requires phenomenal amount of leadership capability to say that here is somebody who's taken, who wants refuge here, who does not want to be drawn into the theater on unfavorable terms, and therefore I would say very well done to the leadership of AKD and the entire people, echelons of decision making who allowed this Iranian ship, second Iranian ship to come there and have carried out their responsibility, just in accordance with the statutes related to providing safety and support to lives at sea. They were very prompt. India has done it all the time whenever it happened. In fact, even in this case, I can tell you from first-hand sources that Indian aircraft were immediately ready and sent to the area, and they were ready with their life rafts and all that to be thrown. But by the time, the Sri Lankan Navy had done an excellent job of rescuing those who needed help, and they moved them to the hospitals. So it's heartwarming to see that a small country like Sri Lanka has, discharged its obligations as an island country, which conforms to international norms and behavior of rule-based order, while others are flouting rule-based order at will. I'm talking about America, which has been flouting rules at will.
You are talking about the rule-based order, but recently the Canadian Prime Minister at Davos summit in Switzerland said we have no more rule-based order in the world. So my question, next question, like Sri Lankan Navy rescued the survivors from the first ship Iris Dana, and they have actually took the custody of the second ship and the crew. Was this a correct move under the International Maritime law?
Absolutely. It is within the maritime law, and anybody would do this, provided they are willing to stand up to a bully, in the sense that here was a ship that feared its own survival because of what has happened to another ship there, and therefore it is welcome by Sri Lanka to take refuge in a neutral country. This has been done before, even in World War time. There was this description of who the neutral country is and what can be done when the neutral country is there if you do not want to draw that neutral country into a war. So in this case, Sri Lanka is neutral, India is neutral, many other countries in the Indian Ocean are neutral countries. They are not party to either Iran or USA, and they condemned this, and they have said, war is not the time for war, and therefore Sri Lanka has done the right thing, and it is well in accordance with international law, where if, when you are neutral, you have the right to defend the interests of another sovereign country. And, so from that point of view, again, I would say that Sri Lanka must be complimented for the decision that is taken to ensure that the safety of ships that would have been attacked out at sea has been protected. Well done to Sri Lanka.
And in Sri Lankan parliament and outside, the opposition raises a valid point. They said the foreign powers' intervention in the Sri Lanka's exclusive economic zone raises big questions. Do you think they have a valid point to raise this?
No, to certain extent, yes, because there was no reason because they could have waited. The Americans could have waited for that to be actually in the high seas, but they would have, carried out an analysis and said if we leave this moment now, as it is rounding Sri Lanka and heading towards Arabian Sea, it's possible that it will get into territorial waters of India and seek protection, where it may become difficult for them to engage. So it is time and space that has been calculated by them, and they said this is perhaps the most opportune moment. It was technically, even according to UNCLOS, where the ship has been attacked, comes under the definition of high seas and not exclusive economic zone, where such rules are applied. So they have categorically said in many occasions, not just this, to say that the exclusive economic zone is all right. That is for your harnessing of the fisheries wealth, minerals, oil resources, etc. But when it comes to any other action that's taken, it would be defined as high seas. By so this is coming to legal questions on many occasions, including in the Iranian vessel which shot two fishermen off Cochin some time ago, and all these cases. This has clearly been brought out to say that these are high seas, and therefore, if there are two parties engaged in a war, they would legitimize by saying that the provisions of UNCLOS does not apply here because we are at war. So I think the opposition has a point to say that why bring it close to our doors? There's a point that they're trying to make. But I think Sri Lanka has done very well, I would say, because they did not even perhaps consult USA or whatever. I said, here is somebody who's looking for shelter, we will provide it. Matter ends. Well done. I would say well done.
On the other hand, this incident happened in India's strategic area of influence. So, from Delhi's point of view, from their perspective, how concerning is this incident?
No, India is definitely very concerned about the fact that the war has been brought to our shores, and but we have a bigger challenge of energy security. All the ships which are, there are something like 1,100 seafarers who are struck. Ships which are supposed to bring energy products to India are also being held back. But after this incident, after these two ships, I don't think there are any other Iranian ships outside the war zone except these two, one out of which was sunk and the other which has taken refuge. And therefore, now it will get contained because I do not see any Iranian ships coming out of the war zone. They will not be allowed to come out. So I don't think there will be another incident which requires similar handling. But I am sure India would have definitely made its concerns well known because, as you know, there is one something called the MDA, Maritime Domain Awareness Program, which happens in Delhi, where there are observers from foreign countries who are sitting in Gurugram, and including USA, to the best of my knowledge, and they would have been told that no, this is what you have done, and we perhaps would have raised our protests. We have lodged our protests to say that perhaps this could have been avoided because this was defenseless. What could have a small ship like this, which was returning about 1,500 tons, what kind of damage could it have done to a superior navy like America? They could have chosen any time to strike it, but obviously their calculation was that in case we allow him to enter either Indian port or Sri Lankan port, then we will not be able to attack. So that is what would have compelled them to carry out this attack, even though it was in the exclusive economic zone of Sri Lanka. So in their analysis, the submarine was close enough. It was perhaps tracking it. And they said this is the time to strike before he seeks sanctuary either in India or in Sri Lanka.
From this attack, what lessons that Indian Navy can draw in terms of surveillance and deterrence?
No, I think all the navies which are watching this closely would draw their own lessons. So obviously, your surveillance has to be phenomenal. Well, the surveillance today, because of the maritime domain awareness, is very good, I would say, because of the voluntary reporting system, because of the automated identification system, the white ship system, the gray ship system. The surface is by and large under control. The concerns are more related to underwater potential threats, such as the nuclear submarine or even a conventional submarine, which has got AIP, that's the air independent propulsion systems. So obviously, there has to be a greater emphasis in locating, tracking, and prosecuting underwater targets, which would be a major danger for any navy, not just the Indian Navy or American Navy. For any navy, it is the underwater threat that would be predominant in times of war. And if you remember, the only loss that India suffered in Saudi War was because of a submarine attack by Pakistan. So this will continue to be a major potential threat, and therefore the navies would obviously now, redouble their efforts to see that the underwater domain awareness, which is a term that is doing the rounds, is something that is showed up, strengthened in times to come, so that we are better equipped and prepared to take on the potential threat, whether from conventional submarines or from nuclear submarines.
Some analysts says India may have quietly welcomed the development that it didn't this incident didn't happen closer to its maritime borders. How do you see this kind of an
It's highly
analysis?
unlikely. It's not speculation. It's highly unlikely because you are looking at a underwater potential nuclear submarine whose position would have been known only to the American forces. We had no way of tracking it. So in a warlike situation, you will mount surveillance effort to detect such contacts. But in this case, so far away from even the Indian shores, outside our exclusive economic zone, there is no reason for us to worry about the presence of a submarine. There was no intelligence, nor would it one be shared from America on their location because it's a war plan. So I would not like to contribute to this, to say that India was perhaps taken into confidence about this. It's, I would say it's totally unlikely that India was taken into confidence. It's their war. They are fighting it. We are not a party to this.
From this incident, what is the single biggest lesson the countries need to learn?
Well, there's only one thing which is says, which is I said earlier, might is right, and therefore all these laws that we keep talking about, the rule-based order, unclass, everything is thrown out of the window at the convenience of the oppressor. So therefore, we have to be very careful to know what are the limitations of this so-called rule-based order. Who's the one who is writing those rules? Who's the one who is following it? Who is the one who is implementing it? And if it's violated. So I think we all are on our own. So the only thing is to have a credible, capable system that can withstand such global pressures, not just by military, but there are other ways in which the nation has to uh, contribute to building what's called the GNP, gross national power. Only when you have such a gross national power would you be in a position to have some. Imagine, even Russia and China have not been able to do anything in this war. We look at China and Russia as competitors to USA. Where is it that they don't accept some protests and some statements? What have they done otherwise? So there are limitations, which are there are compelling reasons why you are not in a position to take on a superpower such as the USA in this case, particularly when the international organizations are toothless. The United Nations, the United Nations Security Council, and whoever else you talk about, they are totally toothless. That means you are on your own. That is the lesson. So shore up your own capabilities, both on your own and also by strong alliances who are not going to desert you.
Thank you, Commodore Vasan, for your time and answering all the questions.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It's a pleasure being with you and look forward to more such interactions.
Thank you. Thank you.
All the
Thank you.
best.
Thank
God
you.
bless.